This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, I'll call this meeting to order at 6:04 p.m. on Wednesday, April 17th. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to TVF&R for coming. I'm going to go ahead and start with item number 1 on our agenda, which is approval of the minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes of the last meeting.
I have one question before we actually do that. So I noticed on the minutes, and maybe this is not a big deal, but I just noticed that a couple of the people that said were present, Ronnie, were present via phone or Zoom. Does that matter? I just noticed in the past you've indicated whether somebody was here in person or not. I really don't care. I just wanted to make sure that we're doing it right. Okay, thank you. Okay, and I also want to thank you for doing such a thorough job on the minutes. It was a really noticeable difference, and we really appreciate that. Thank you. Did anybody notice any errors or?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to.
Okay, I'll second it.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Oh, my mic's not on. Do we do a roll call vote, or do we just raise our hands?
Just raise your hand. 3-0.
Okay, next on our agenda is a special presentation from TVF&R. The floor is yours.
Mayor and council members, my name is Chris, Deputy Chief of Operations. State of the district. Before I go any further, I'd like to introduce the engine company and the med company that's working at Station 35 today, and to have Lieutenant Adam Nunez introduce the rest of his crews.
Hi, Adam Nunez. I'm the company officer on A shift, so we work over at 35 here off the Pack Highway, as you all know. We have our engine and our paramedic ambulance here as well. So I'm a lieutenant. This is firefighter Robert Seaman. This is AO Jen Ward, firefighter Josh Christensen, and paramedic Nicole Matthews, and paramedic Keith Arnold.
Nice to meet you all.
There's a lot of appreciation for the crew. I saw that before we started in the crowd, and I just want to convey how proud we are of the service they provide us. Go ahead and start. If you have questions at any point during the presentation, I'd be happy to answer them, or we can leave the end as well. Next slide, please. This is what we're going to talk about, year in review video, which would be by Chief Weiss, Major Emergency Operations, quick EMS update. We're going to talk about our bond and the levy that we're going to be on here in the next slide.
Hi, my name is Derek Weiss, and I'm the Fire Chief for Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue. It's a busy place. Here are just a few of the highlights from this year from our paramedics, firefighters, and support staff that keep our community safe. imagine, I'm extremely proud of the men and women that work for Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue. They are passionate and dedicated to serve you. As you saw, they have a tremendous impact on the community, and we are honored to serve.
I'd like to echo what Chief Weiss said. I'm very proud of the organization as well, and hopefully that gave you a little insight into how busy we are throughout all of our divisions. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk about major emergency operations. We were hit with a significant weather event in January, as I'm sure the entire metro area was. I'm sure it impacted the city of King City. We were stressed. We had 4 incident management teams, which our incident management teams kind of oversee large-scale events. All 4 were activated during this time frame. We had an unfortunate incident where we lost one of our lieutenants. One of our overhead teams was managing that and the planning of that memorial service. Then we had 2 incident management teams that were managing relocating crews out of stations that we had some problems with due to damage. And then we had 1 that was dedicated just to the storm itself. What you're looking at here is a little bit of data from the storm, which went from January 13th to the 18th. You see the blue line that shows 164. That's 164 calls, which would be an average day during the week during this time frame. And you can see how much busier we were during this time frame, with the peak being Saturday, January 13th. Significant. So we went into major emergency operations, which isn't something that we do all that often. What that allows us to do is call triage, call hold, and modify alarm response based on the fact that demand for service is being outpaced by our resource availability. You can see there the calls that we went on. Those were the top calls, but I can tell you we went on a whole bunch of other call types. Water calls as we start to see the thaw. Early on that Saturday, January 13th, lots of trees into houses in our northeastern edge of our fire district. So we were stressed, but I'm extremely proud of our organization. We activated our volunteers, our deputy fire marshals, our training officers, our medical service officers. It was all hands on deck, and our crews were extremely resilient and did a great job. So very proud. Next slide, please. This is what we call your annual snapshot. This gives data specific to King City. And as you can see, there were 1,014 calls within King City itself. I'm just going to kind of walk through this, and if you have questions, because it can get a little busy, I'd be happy to pause and answer those specifically. Across the top there, we break the calls up into categories: EMS, fire, hazard, service, and so forth. And you can see that 81% of the calls were EMS. That's very on par with what we see not only in the rest of our fire district, but as well as, across the nation. About 75–80% of our calls are EMS. Going down, the next column down below that, you see it says dispatched as, and then situation found. That's basically describing, if somebody calls and says, hey, I'm seeing a structure fire here, we have an apartment that's on fire, and then the 911 dispatch center dispatches the appropriate alarm assignment based on that information, but our crews arrive, and it tends up being a dryer vent. That's why there's some discrepancy in that data. What did they actually find when they get there? Below that, we further break it out into subcategories so we can track trends and provide specific training to those trends. And then in the lower left, we track hours of the day, and what you see in your area is what we see in most areas. It tends to get busier in the late afternoon, early evening, and then it tapers off in the late hours of the evening. Day of the week, not much change there, a little bit busier, it looks like, on Friday, but pretty standard across the board. And then we trend out a 5-year look so we can identify where demand is occurring throughout our entire fire district. And really in the 5-year look, King City is holding pretty steady. So, and lower right, sticking with that, Station 35, the crews that you were introduced to, they provide 89% of your emergency medical services in your area. And then the last thing here is the right, that's called a heat map. Where you see the bright colors, that's where the call density is occurring. So typically we see those in care homes, places of gathering, maybe some schools or an intersection that is known for creating traffic hazards. Next slide, please. Bit of an EMS update here. So recently, Tualatin Valley endorsed House Bill 4081, which was a bill to modernize Oregon's EMS system. That was the only bill that we endorsed. And in a nutshell, what that does is it creates consistency through the state with data sharing, commonalities with, you know, how you would go about patient care, that sort of thing. So we're excited to see that go through. This last year, we had a transition from Metro West to AMR in Washington County. Both prior to the transition and after the transition, we played a significant role in helping out with transport within the county. We were transporting as many as 44 times a week, and I'm happy to say that the report that we received last week, we transported 0 times. So AMR's staffing levels are up much more than we saw during those early transition weeks, and so we're glad to see that. However, we're focused and ready to stand in when we need to. We're going to talk about this in just a few slides, but if our levy is successful, we'll be looking to purchase additional transport units throughout our service area. And one of the things that we're really focused on, we did a pilot program with our community paramedics to attack the high utilizers of 911. And oftentimes, they don't necessarily need a big fire engine with 4 trained people to go out and take care of their needs. What they need is maybe 1 person, and what that does is preserves that fire engine or that medic crew for critical call types. And that's been very successful, and we're going to continue to see that bear fruit as it's now up and running and fully deployed. And those units are down in Newburgh, in Progress, and in Tualatin. Next slide, please. Bond update. So you'll recall in 2021, voters approved a $122 million bond. Really, you didn't see much of an increase because we had prior bond debt drop off. And I want to talk about 2 projects that will be of interest to you. The next slide, please. First being at our training center down off Tonquin Road, which isn't too far from here. The first part of that is going to be what we call Recruit Village, and here. Recruit Village, well, I'd like to say we came up with the idea and the concept. We actually stole it from PGE and their training facility. What this is a large covered arena so that we can train out of the elements. It's important for us to be out of the elements not only in the winter but in the summer as we continue to get warm. You can imagine the firefighters are wearing all their gear. It creates a lot of heat. It allows us to get out of those elements and provide more training hours. Also allows the instructors to observe from above. Not only will we have the arena, but we'll have classrooms joined around so our recruits can get out of the main admin building and be out there focused on. And then Station 35. This is obviously very exciting. We had a meeting yesterday for initial land use, and meeting went very well. We anticipate no hurdles, and we'll be starting construction. This will be a complete scrape and rebuild at the existing site. Station 35 will be. It'll be a 2-story station, increased base space to provide increased capacity for our future needs of deployment. Next slide, please. So we're going to be on the ballot here soon with a local option levy request. We have had this levy since 2000. This will be a levy increase, and the rate will be 69 cents per assessed thousand. We are hoping that when we're successful, we'll be able to add 36 additional firefighters and then support staff. This will help us with our growing demands throughout our service area. as you can imagine, our call volume, which I failed to touch on in the EMS update, while we had a slight decrease this year, it was very slight. The trend over 5 years has continued to climb, and we're at about 60,000 calls right now, and we anticipate, in 5-10 years, we could be seeing upwards of 100,000 calls. So we'll be able to hopefully keep pace with that with additional staff. And this will be about, for the average assessed valued home within our service area, it'll be about $17 a month. And with that, I'm extremely happy to answer any questions about anything that was presented tonight or any questions you might have outside of the presentation.
Just curious. And I don't know terminology you guys use. Ambulances that are being driven by paramedic, or what you call them. Have you seen savings switching to those instead of using the paramedic truck on it being dispatched out, and with all the data you guys imagine? Yeah. No, it's a great question. Where we see savings is from our FTE, our employees, right? So anytime we deploy a 2-person unit versus a 4-person unit, absolutely. And more importantly, we're able to send the right resource to the right call. So for us, we have a very diverse deployment. We deploy units, we deploy rescues, we have the single cars for the high utilizers and our community paramedics, and then we have our engines and trucks. Yeah, good question. Thank you.
How were you able to identify, you said that you recently started identifying which ones needed, which calls needed a truck and which calls just needed like a 1 or 2 man team. How are you able to identify that? Just by dispatch or?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. We go through an analysis that we identify the critical task, and then we identify how many people we need to accomplish that critical task. And then that informs our effective response force, which is really outlined for us in a bigger document that governs our deployment called our standards of cover. So there's a lot of data and a lot of science that goes into it, and then we build all of our alarm assignments off of that.
It's being so effectively used, and it's probably saving a lot of money in the long run, I'm sure. Dan, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. The only thing is a comment, and I don't remember, I think it was last year that I read that we are very fortunate, and we should be very grateful to you because you, TVF&R, is one of the most outstanding fire departments in anywhere. Not just Oregon, but everywhere.
Thank you for that. I'm a little biased. I certainly appreciate your comment, but I couldn't agree with you more. I think that we are one of the finest, if not the finest, fire agencies in the nation, and the service we provide speaks for itself.
Yeah, it was a great presentation. It was a great slideshow, and we really appreciate all the work that you all do, and we appreciate you coming here and updating us.
Thank you.
You call it the state of the district.
Okay. Well, thanks for your time. If you have any questions, please, happy to follow up. If anybody in the audience has questions, the station crews would be happy to have you over anytime and field any of your questions. So thanks.
Thank you so much.
We get to model the station. Is it temporary on the property, or is it?
We're going to have to move off-site. We're looking for property. We have a couple of leads, but yeah, they're going to have to move out, and then so they'll be able to focus on that project. But we're trying to stay as close to the existing site as we can. Yeah.
Thank you for training small commercials in King City every year. We appreciate your retraining of our new-star skills. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we are going to move on to our next agenda item, which is a presentation by Judy Willie or Wiley from the Family. Okay. The Family Justice Center.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, I just want to make
Virtually.
sure everybody can hear me and the audio is okay.
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for having the Family Justice Center here tonight. And for those of you that are new, the Family Justice Center is a collaborative organization that operates in Washington County. We have 21 different agencies that are inside of our facility so that survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, elder abuse, human trafficking, family violence, and also child abuse have a single place to go instead of having to go all over the place. Washington County is a very large county, and for those that have had to drive from the edges of Tualatin all the way up to Banks before, or all the way out to the edges of Beaverton, they know that sometimes that can take quite a while. And so it's really critical that we have united all of these services in this single location so that survivors who always have very complex needs can get all of those needs met. So I'm here today to talk with you about what our services looked like in 2023. We go around to all of our cities every year in order to show them what the work is that we've been doing. And then also all of our cities support us both in resources, financially, and in outreach. So we want to make sure that we're able to report back to you guys all of the services that we've given, not only to the entire county, but also to folks that live in your community. And so starting from the beginning, we served more survivors with more services in 2023 than we ever have, which is fantastic. And also in our line of work, a little bit challenging. And so that is always sort of a double-edged sword for us to report. And so in 2023, we served over 5,000, or actually over 5,600 survivors with over 10,000 services, which is the most that we have ever done. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is we know that we're still not reaching everybody. So even though 5,600 people is a lot of people, it is not everybody that experiences either domestic violence or sexual assault. We know that about 42% of the population experiences domestic violence and 54% of the population experience sexual assault. And so when I see 5,600, I'm heartened, but I also know that that is not 42 or 56% of Washington County. The reason that I'm heartened to see the numbers going up is because I think in Washington County, we have created a conversation around what is domestic and sexual violence, what is family violence, and we've started to break that silence a little bit. That's a really critical piece in moving towards a community that has much lower rates of domestic and sexual violence and also child abuse, is the willingness to talk about it. One of the sort of hallmarks of abuse is that sense of silence, that sense of I can't talk about what's going on, or I don't even know what's happening because either this feels normal to me, or it feels like it's my fault, or it feels like I'm the only one that this is happening to. And so ensuring that we continue that conversation publicly, which this is one of the ways that we are continuing that conversation publicly, coming to see you guys on an annual basis, you guys showing up and supporting events, and also with the public proclamations that you've always done, that ensures that the community of King City knows that not only are there resources, but there are people that will believe them, and there are ways that the community knows how to reach out and support those individuals. And so while 5,600 is high, it makes me know that not only are we increasing that conversation, but we are starting to reach the people that need us the most. The other piece is we increased the number of partners that we had. So we brought on partners such as Sequoia Mental Health, the Oregon Food Bank, who now supports our food pantry, and also Adelante Mujeres to do their Beyond Trauma program. So culturally specific peer support of trauma healing, which is a huge, huge support for our population. We'll talk a little bit more about demographics, but the majority of folks that we see are people of color and are people that speak different languages other than English. And so that's a really important component for us.
Rachel, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Hold on one second.
Okay, because she's talking about 2023, the graphics show 2022, she's talking about other things that would
Oh.
raise the broad date.
Rachel, are we supposed to be following along on a slideshow, or are you not there yet?
I don't have a slideshow, so I was just giving the report that you guys should have in your packets.
Sorry.
Oh, okay. Sorry, we just have something up on our screen here. And it
Oh,
says
I'm sorry about
2022
that.
Annual report. That's okay. It's all good. All right. Go ahead and continue.
Okay. Sorry about that. We also increased the collaborative awareness raising events that we did, such as the Run for Hope in October for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we had over 150 participants, which was for the first time to do a run in October. That was we were pretty excited about that. And then also our annual Survivor Art Gallery for the month of April. That just happened about a week and a half ago at the Walters Cultural Arts Center, but that is a showcase of all of the art that survivors have created throughout the year that aids in their healing process. And then also we've really expanded our food box program during the holidays. So both for Thanksgiving or fall feast time and also our winter holiday time, we have been giving away an increased number of both food boxes and then also support items during that time. We also partner with our local law enforcement agencies to do Shop with a Cop, which is one of my favorite events. So they take youth that are connected with the Family Justice Center, both back to school shopping and holiday shopping. And those are just really fun. It's really early in the morning, but getting to watch the kids pick out whatever they want and then watching the police officers just really fall in love with those kids and like, oh, you overbilled, like here, I'll just pay for it out of my own pocket. Like it's just a really fantastic event. It's always been my favorite one. And so all that being said, we really increased the number of outreach and community-based events that we did, both to increase the support of survivors, but then also to increase the awareness in the community as a whole. And finally, we have a survivor advisory board, and they're called our Voices Committee, and they engaged in both outreach and telling their stories, but also in legislative work this past year to pass survivor-friendly policies, and many of which got really good support in the last legislative session. So all of that, I described that we've served 5,600 survivors with over 10,000 services. We have over 21 partners inside of the center providing those services, and we're working collaboratively amongst all those partners to coordinate those services so they can access things like advocacy, basic needs, restraining orders, legal services, safety nets, counseling, financial assistance, law enforcement, all those sorts of things all in one place. They don't have to go all over the county in order to receive them. In 2023, we served 8 survivors from King City with 12 services. And we always talk about with both King City and Durham that a lot of people, because they're relatively small communities, will identify that they are with Tigard or a neighboring community. We find that a lot in a lot of our small communities because in small communities, people really know each other a lot more, and they fear somebody will identify them. And so they'll either not give the location that they're in, or they will give a neighboring location. The city of Tigard always has a overrepresentation of the number of survivors and services that are received. So for instance, in Tigard, we served 309 survivors with 554 services. And that tells me that there are people that are in Tigard, that are outside of Tigard that are identifying as being in Tigard, or they're giving a zip code, which could be within a different city, but is registering as a Tigard zip code. And so when I think about Tigard, King City, and Durham, they're really sort of a combined unit for me. But for those that did identify, and we do have about 30% of our clients do not want to identify where they're coming from. 8 of those were from King City, and they received 12 services. And finally, just sharing the demographics. So we serve a majority people of color. We serve a little over 40% of our population are Hispanic and Latino, and then about 8% identify as Black or African, and then Asian, Pacific Islander, American Indian, and 2 or more. And so 43% of our population identify as white. That's a really interesting component for us in the work that we do, because as a whole, Washington County is 78% white with 22 people of color, and we serve 58 or 57% people of color. And so both that tells me that people of color feel comfortable receiving the services from us. We have created a strong access point for those individuals, but also we know there's disproportionate impacts on communities of color with both violence and abuse. And so it really, even here in Washington County, it really plays out that those folks need the most access. And so having a service like the Family Justice Center is a great access point for those individuals. And I'm proud that they feel like they can access the Family Justice Center. So that's really the summary of what Family Justice Center was up to in 2023, and I'd be happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Rachel. Do we have any questions for Rachel?
I don't have any questions. Just thank you for the presentation. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for the work that you do. It's so important. Thank you for sharing your progress with us. It sounds like the Family Justice Center is really, did I say that right? Family Justice Center?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it's really doing good work and really serving the community well. So thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you. And thank you to King City for always, supporting us on an annual basis. That means a lot. And then also supporting getting out information. And I've been asking all of our cities this year, is there any areas in which we can support King City more? Is there areas that need information about the Family Justice Center that we may not be reaching? Any points of contact that I might need to have in order to make sure we're getting the services there where they're needed?
I just looked over at Chief Happel and he said that we have the information. Yep. I did have one question. I forgot I was going to ask you about the art installation or the art show that you did in April.
Yeah.
I'd love to find out more about that. I mean, maybe you could let us know when that's going to be. It's an annual event. You said it was the first inaugural.
Yeah, so that one's an
Art show.
annual event. We had that on April 2nd, but we have had cities in the past request that installation be brought to their city. And so if that's something that you guys would be interested in, we'd be more than happy to reproduce that in King City when it makes sense for you guys and where it makes sense. And thank you, Chief. Chief is an awesome partner and is really great about handing out all of our information.
I think we would love to pick you up on that offer of displaying some of the artwork here. We don't have a lot of wall space, but we sure would love it. So maybe we can talk more about that at another time.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much. Do you have anything else for us, Rachel?
I do not. Thank you so much for the time and for your attention this evening.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. Great. We're moving on to open forum next. Can you guys hear me? Before I open it up to open forum, I just wanted to make a really brief but important statement regarding this anonymous letter that I'm sure you've all read that's been circulated throughout our entire community. I think I can speak for my fellow counselors. I'm pretty confident that I can speak with them in saying that we support Mike Weston, our city manager. We support our police force. I've been a counselor for 4 years now. I've never heard anything ever bad about our police force, ever. All I've ever heard is praise and what a great job they're doing. And that comes from the top down, right? That comes from the leadership team. So to have all of these wild, unfounded accusations. To have these accusations levied against our police force is, I mean, at very minimum, it's upsetting, possibly criminal, and the fact that it was delivered to everyone's doorstep in our community is shameful, really, in my opinion. This is me speaking from my opinion, from my heart. So we can't really comment too much about it at this point because we are talking with attorneys about this. But I just want to make clear that we're not happy about it, but we may end up having to do an independent investigation, which will probably end up costing our city tens of thousands of dollars. So, but, you know, if we have to do that to clear their names, then we have to do that to clear their names. But I don't want, that's not an agenda item. That was just me wanting to make this. So during open forum, I really would not like to hear any comments about this matter. That's all I have to say unless somebody else has something to say about that matter.
I agree. Thank you.
No, I agree, and I was heartsick reading the letter. It felt like somebody was just stabbing me, because I know my fellow counselors and the people that I've interacted with from the city staff. Everybody works hard, and it really hurts to read a letter filled with that kind of information. You know, anyway, that's really all I can say. But I do. Yeah, that's it.
As you can tell, we're very upset about it because our staff has our full support. They work so hard, and to have these accusations that are completely unfounded and, in my perspective, lies is really upsetting to us. So I'm going to move on from that, unless Mark, unless you have anything else you want to add, and open it up to open forum. I'm going to read my script here. Open forum is intended to ensure the community has an opportunity to provide input for items being considered on the agenda or make suggestions for future agendas. At this time, the council will be happy to receive your comments pertaining to items on the agenda, with the exception of public hearings for which testimony will be received and conducted in the proper form and manner at the time of the hearing. Each person's time will be limited to 3 minutes. We'll open it up first to anyone that's on Zoom. If there's anyone on Zoom that would like to make a public comment, this is your opportunity and this is the time to do it. Oh, raise your hand, please, if you're on Zoom. Ronnie, do you see any hands being raised? Okay. Virtual hands, sorry. So we're gonna close your opportunity on Zoom for public comment. So we'll open it up to the people in the audience here, and it looks like we have one person that's raising their hand in the back. Gretchen is going to go first. Please introduce yourself and give us your address, and then you have 3 minutes.
Gretchen Beener, 16585 Southwest Royalty Parkway. I was really glad that the fire department was on the agenda this evening because I wanted to bring forth an issue that I see as important for all of us. The last time that councilors and planning commissioners here had training on CPR and using defibrillators was my first year on the council back in 2017. I think it is more than needed, And I would request that arrangement, and I actually spoke to the lieutenant out in the hallway about setting that up, that we would have a day we would go over to the fire station and be trained. It's really important, and also we need to be trained on specifically the defibrillator that we have in City Hall, because not all of them operate the same way. So I think that's a really important thing for all of, and not just the counselors, but the planning commissioners too, because things could happen
Yeah, that's a great idea.
during a meeting.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you for that. Yeah. Thank you. How would we set something like that up? Call the fire department?
I just spoke with the lieutenant.
Oh, okay. Cool. Thanks, Gretchen. All right, next up. Can you introduce yourself and give us your address, and then you have 3 minutes.
My name, my name is Gary Woods, 13538 Southwest Fisher Road. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. We're in an unprecedented time in the history of King City, and as a small city planning to double in size, I believe there's some issues that need to be addressed now, and I would like to ask the King City Council to begin a process of changing the charter of the city. And I'm asking for you to consider 2 things. One, that the mayor should be an elected person and not appointed. And the second thing is that the mayor should be a salaried person and other councilors should have stipends. And I think as the city continues to grow, it's overwhelming now. And as it doubles, we're going to have a hard time finding volunteers who are going to want to sit up there and run the city. And we're going to need to move to a position where we're paying people to do these things. So I know that this is something that takes time, but as we're planning to expand the city, it's a good time now. If you think this is something worth pursuing, it's a good time now to start doing, because I understand to change a charter takes some time. And so I just think that it's important for continuing to have good leadership in the community, and as we pay city council, it will bring more people to help us. We have a lot of empty chairs here. Help us to find people who are qualified and who can do that job. And so that's all I wanted to share with you today.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. And we agree. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Next. Anyone? Okay. Thank you very much for your comments. Yeah. Mike, remind me where I'm supposed to put in the change on the agenda.
Under the new business, we have, we would need a motion to move.
Okay.
6E is labeled incorrectly, but 6E and 6G, because we have lots here to discuss the next steps in the council appointment.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And then discuss the potential charter amendment that we were discussing.
Okay. And do we need a motion to change the item? Okay. So should we go ahead and do, let's do the unfinished business first, and then we'll handle that part. So next up is unfinished business. This is regarding the public hearing for the advanced finance reimbursement for Ponderosa Pines subdivision. And our presenter is Max.
That's almost the exact same.
Sorry, for those of you that don't know, this is Max Carter. He's our city planner.
Yes, I am city planner. So this is a continuation of the hearing that we took part in and began last city council meeting. This evidence, neither of the parties involved are currently at this meeting because it is the recommendation of city staff.
There's one party involved is here.
It's the recommendation of city staff, city attorney, and as far as we understand, it's concurred with parties' attorneys as well to continue the hearing to a time certain to the next meeting, just because in May 15th, p.m. Just as a matter of giving everyone time to review newly submitted materials, as well as the amended application, and so that Mr. Watts and party attorneys can also come up with their statements, and just in fairness to everyone involved, instead of rushing this thing through, especially because it is not necessarily a time-constrained ordeal. It's something that isn't super urgent, so just to give everyone time to evaluate everything, the recommendation.
Yeah.
Again, and that is May 15th at 6 p.m.
Okay. I mean, I completely agree, because we want to make sure we get this right, and there's a lot of people involved, there's a lot of money involved, and there's a lot more that we need to find out before we make any kind of decision. So, recommendation. Do we need to formally?
Yes, we need a motion, a second.
Does anybody have any questions about it though, or comments about?
I am assuming from what you've said that there is ongoing conversation between the parties and their attorneys, and those items need to be resolved before City Council can really weigh in, correct?
It's prudent to have everything finalized, and there were some amendments to not only the application, but also the city engineer's evaluation of everything. And so we need to make sure that everything is set before we bring it to the council for a final decision.
So there's some complex calculations, and there were also some questions regarding that we needed clarification on. And then I had spoken with Adele. It's been patient with us as we've kind of been going through all of this data, and we want to make sure that she has sufficient time in order to advise her client and also to put what she needs in the record.
Has the civil case, I'm just curious, has the civil case been settled yet? No, okay. Okay, that's unfortunate. Okay, so any other questions?
I just wanted the clarification.
Okay, yeah. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to, what do we say, table it.
To move the advanced finance reimbursement for Ponderosa Pines subdivision public hearing to our next scheduled council meeting, May 15, 2024. At 6 p.m.
I will second Mike's motion.
Okay. All those in favor? Tabling. Great. All right, so next up, we're moving on to new business, and we just have a couple of items that we need to move to the front of this section because our city attorney has another engagement that he has to leave early for, so we need to move items 6E and 6G to the front of section 6. Right? Okay. So I will entertain a motion to amend the agenda.
Make a motion to amend the agenda for 6E and 6G to move that to the front of the new business items on the agenda.
I will second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
0.
Great. So we'll start with council committee appointments.
Actually, yes, council committee appointment, what it's labeled, but it's more about the council applications that we've received and next steps forward.
Oh, okay. So that's actually item F. So the council committee appointments are for our committees that we volunteer on. Item F is setting interview dates for city council vacancy applicants. Is that what you're?
That's why I was confused when you told me that. Okay.
Yeah, we were like, that shouldn't have been on it. But, yeah, so it would be F, because then the council committee appointments would be your assignments with.
Right.
So can I amend my motion to make it be F instead of E?
Who's on first?
It is easy to confuse the two. Council appointments and council appointments, really. They're both council appointments. Okay. All right, so we'll start with talking about setting interview dates for.
Sorry, to interrupt. This is a point of order. We have a motion on the table to amend. So we need a second.
Second to amend the amendment.
I second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. Okay. So our presenter on this is Mike Weston, or is it Peter Watts?
Maybe a little bit of a combination. For the moment, what I'm asking is Mr. Watts to give a quick briefing on our order. So far, we've received, I want to say 10 applicants.
12.
Or 12.
Yeah, we just got another one today.
One had pulled their application, so.
Oh.
Back to 11.
11. Okay, great.
But, the notice was published on Sunday. It went in the Oregonian. It was March 17th or so. Yeah. So, that's when it was published. The charter says 30 days. That could be 30 business days, 30 regular days. Or there's some subjectivity there. We had noticed it as open until filled because prior to our conversation, we implied that there was no rush, and we wanted to make sure that we had good quality applicants in school. And in the past, we haven't had big rushes to fill our needs, so we had left it open until filled. There is a section of our muni code that allows for 30 days, and like, why don't I have that?
All right, so we've got a little bit of ambiguity in the charter and code, which is often the case, and there are a couple of things. So first is it expresses a general desire but not a requirement. Do you fill vacancies within 3 months of them being vacant? And then there's the second piece, which is that process, which is that the city manager publishes notice, which happened in the Oregonian, and then, and this is in section 2.38.020, and applications are accepted for 30 days after the first publication. At the end of the day, this 30-day period, receipt of applications will cease. And so the ambiguity that we have is that folks that saw the vacancy notice saw open until filled and haven't been filled yet. We have a charter that contemplates them being filled within 3 months, but not a requirement. And then we have this 30-day period, which if we begin counting on the Monday after the notice was published in the Oregonian would put us just earlier this week. There are some people that picked up applications that haven't turned them in, and we don't know if that's because they decided not to do it or because they didn't understand that they were on a 30-day deadline. So there are a couple ways we can address it. You are entitled to vast deference in your interpretation of the code. If you want to say that that 30-day period is over, we're not accepting any more applications, you can certainly do that. The way that it's set forth then, if you find 4 qualified candidates among the list, we're done. If you were to fill 2 seats, then any candidate receiving 1 vote would be automatically forwarded, and we'd start anew with the public noticing and the 30-day period. The other option is because it says 30 days, but it doesn't say 30 calendar days or 30 business days, you could say that, you could interpret this to mean business days, which might allow staff to let these candidates know that, I think we get 7 more days. It will be next week, I believe. Yeah. So that would be one way, so that people that might not have been aware that they were required to get it in by that, it would at least give them time to complete their application. So this is one of those items that it's however you guys want to do it, and you have either 11 or 12, depending on someone that withdrew or not, applications. That doesn't necessarily mean you would fill all 4 of those, so you have a lot of discretion.
Okay, thank you.
The next Friday.
So if you could give us guidance on whether you interpret that to mean business days or calendar days, that would give us the answer on the one set of items, and then we can move on from there.
Thank you. Well, I'll give my opinion on it. I've read the code and pretty familiar with what Peter's speaking to. There are some ambiguous pieces, but the one part I don't find ambiguous is that it says that the application window will close 30 days from the time that it's publicly noticed. I think that's pretty clear the way that I read it. And if it meant to say business days, it would have said business days. So my interpretation of it is that the window should close 30 days from when it's published. I'd love to hear what my fellow councilors think about this.
I mean, I think historically we have left the postings open until filled. I think a lot of it, what the council said was, took a long time to fill them, and that's the way we published it. Yeah. So to me, since we have some leeway, I would leave it open until we appoint all 4 seats.
I hear what you're saying, and I agree that historically that's the way we've done it. But I just want to point out that we've also been accused of doing things the wrong way in the very recent past with our most recent resignation of Councilor Paulson. So I want to make sure that we're doing things by the book.
Do you think leaving something open is going to use us of?
I'm afraid that if somebody applies that some community members doesn't like their application for whatever reason, doesn't like the person, we decide to appoint them, then they're going to say that we did it wrong and that we should have never accepted their application. So I just want to be really careful. I think that that's just my opinion. How about you, Jen?
I'm sitting on the fence on this a little bit, so I apologize, but if the charter says that it's 30 days from posting and then it is closed, I'm not sure exactly what the wording is. And that's what we would be, I think, compelled to do if it says.
You have the charter there in front of you, Peter?
Yeah, so
can you read us that one portion?
Applications will be accepted for 30 days after the first publication. And then it says, at the end of the 30-day period, receipt of applications will cease. So that the only question is the 30 days.
To repeat that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, at the end of the 30-day period, receipt of applications will cease.
Will cease. So that means that really after 30 days, by the charter, not by history, we need to close it. And if we make 1 or 2 appointments out of that, then we can open it again. Is that correct?
Correct. So if you were to say that days means calendar days, and thus the applications, the receipt of applications will cease, at that point, we would schedule the interviews not sooner than 5 days after that period closed. And the way that it works is if candidates get a majority of the votes, then they're appointed. If candidates don't get a majority of the vote, but get 1 vote, then their application will be forwarded carried to the next round, and we would start over with a new
Sure.
30-day period.
But
So again, that's the question is the 30-day period, is that calendar days or business days? If you were to say that's calendar days, then we're good. If you were to say it's business days, then it would be, because Easter was a Sunday. It would close on Friday of next week.
So, talking about a charter amendment for council compensation, but maybe there are some other little murky things such as this that we need to clarify whether that is calendar days or business days, because it makes a big difference in the time frame.
So I guess we're already in a situation because the publication said open until filled.
Right,
So we're already in a situation where people are going to say that we're not telling the truth.
Right.
Second, if it's I would say it would be business days because people would not be able to turn it in on a weekend. City Hall's closed. And holiday. So do we have to republish it and say it's for 30 days or 30 calendar days? Since the original public notice was said open until filled.
That's the question. Yeah. I mean, I know the way that I interpret the municipal code, which is, I think it's crystal clear. What we noticed goes against what the code says, which is unfortunate. So we're tasked with interpreting or deciding what to do at this point. I feel comfortable with closing the application period, but I'll do what the majority of us decide on.
Yeah, we're going to end up splitting hairs here.
And we close it, and then someone says, well, I had an application out, and then they're late, right? We're going to say sorry. But
And so do you run a second notice?
Well, you know,
And then the first notice?
yeah, I don't think there's going to be anyone in King City, Tigard area in general that doesn't know about our situation with having to fill 4 seats on our council. I think everybody knows that we have 4 seats to be filled. So if somebody missed the 30-day window, they missed the 30-day window. That might sound hardcore, but that's how I feel. We have to stick to what the code says. So let's not spend more time talking about it. I think that we've talked enough about it. I think we should just make a decision, in my perspective, unless you have more questions for city staff about it. Or more discussion that you want to.
So are you saying calendar days or business days?
I'm saying calendar days because it wasn't, if it meant, if they wanted to say business days, they would have said business days, so.
Well, that's where the ambiguity where they allow for interpretation.
Sure. I mean, if you are preferring to push it out, then that's an option. We can.
I don't want to push it out. I just want to make sure we get it right.
Yeah.
And like I was saying earlier, if say a calendar day and someone said they came down here on a Sunday to turn in their application and they couldn't because City Hall was closed.
Mm.
Yeah, it's one of the scenarios, but
yeah,
you have to kind of go through all of it.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're in a precarious situation because of the notice. So
the notice kind of screws things up, and it doesn't.
Definitely.
We don't get to do a do-over.
Right. Well, maybe the compromise would be pushing it out to next Friday then.
I think the compromise is to call it 30 business days, and then we need to address this in the proper form of however it is that we make charter amendments. Because
And make sure the notices follow charter.
yeah, absolutely. The public notices need to follow our charter.
Okay. So I think we've made a decision. We're going to close the application. Well, I'm just talking, I want to make sure that we're gonna announce that the application period is going to close next Friday, right? Is that what we're agreeing on? We'll do a motion, but
yes. I
just want to make sure that we're all clear on
whatever 30 business days is. Yes.
They did the math.
On the 17th, we have 5, 15, 20.
Next Friday.
Okay. And at that point, that's when we will set it down, and then we will extend invitations for people to interview after that.
Do you want to at least put something on the calendar?
I think that's a great idea.
Then, at least we know kind of like what day between now and next city council meeting when maybe the three of you have a calendar opening that everyone can make. And we can call the applicant starting after next week. So it would have to be May, early May, right? So it would have to be in May. The second, it'd be the week of May 6th would be our starting period, I believe.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to extend the application deadline to Friday, April 26th at 5 p.m.
35 days.
Is that right?
So we can have interviews?
No,
It was posted on the 17th, right? So 30 days would put us at April 19th.
When did we notice this?
right, but we were going to do business days, right?
April 26th. Business days, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, you're right. I missed on my count.
Oh, no, that's just when the window will close for applications to be submitted. April 26th is when the window will close, but we won't be doing any interviews yet. Okay?
So the week of May 6th would be, we'd be after our 30 business days and then after our 5 business days, which we're not, you're not supposed to do the interviews within 5 days of the closure, so.
Right.
So that would be the next Friday before we could have an interview.
Right. So I'm going to entertain a motion right now just to extend the window for receiving applications to, what was the date again? To Friday, April 26th at 5 p.m. if somebody would like to.
Make a motion to extend or set the closing date of the 4 open council seat applications for April 26th, 2024 at 5 p.m.
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Zero.
Okay, and now we can talk about when we would actually do the interviews. And we're probably looking at least 1, if not 2 or more interview dates, or are we going to try to do it all in one go?
We have 11 right now, I believe.
Yeah.
So each one's probably going to take half hour. So I would say probably, depending on how many slots you have in your schedule, how much time we have, I think you break it up in multiple days. And then whatever your schedule allows is what we'll send out to the applicants as an option to show up for. Do you want to do it via Zoom? Hybrid here?
I think I'd prefer to do it in person. That's just my opinion. But,
What was that?
to do the interviews in person versus
Yeah, I think.
or hybrid, I guess we could do. But in person would
We have to, but in person is preferable.
for sure. So the earliest that we could do it, it looks like, would be May 3rd, correct?
The week of May 6th, yeah. We have to do 5 business days, like a cool off period, I guess you could.
Okay. So the week of May 6th. Okay. So, councilors, would you prefer to do these during, probably in the evening would make the most sense for people that work, wouldn't it? For applicants that work?
I wouldn't be able to make it.
Okay.
What was that?
Do it during the evening, the interviews? We're just scheduling them out for the first week of May.
From 6 to 8. That way we could potentially do 4, 3 for sure. And by my count, I think there were 12 applications submitted so far. So that would take 4 days of
going to be a long process. Okay, so I think we are looking at possibly May 6th as the first interview date. Everybody have their calendars up?
I sure do.
Can't do it. Yes, I have my calendar.
Yeah, do May 6th. Okay, how is May 7th?
So far, so good.
That's a little bit now.
Ooh.
You have times in the daytime hours, what the council schedule during the day look like,
Yeah, I guess we could offer, yeah. We could offer both. What's your, you can't meet during the day.
You have it, time hours?
Yeah, I work.
Huh?
So what about May 6th or 8th? Maybe we could do 5 to 8 and try to fit in. Maybe we do a 3-hour session and try to fit as many in as we could.
5 to 8.
5 to 8 on May 6th.
May 8th.
Yep.
Yeah, May 8th. May 9th.
Just come with a bottle of water and an energy bar.
Yeah. May 9th?
And then do we want to do May 8th? Skip a day? So our brains can, want to do them 2 days in a row.
Councilor Manalis is not available
Yeah, I'm not available the first part of that week.
on 4th. So then,
you're not available soon?
No.
Great, okay.
you available on May 9th?
Yeah, I have time.
Okay, May 9th. How does that look for the city staff?
I'm good.
Okay. What time could you be here on a Thursday, Mark? Councilor
5.
5? How does 5 o'clock sound to the city staff?
And this is more of a networking event, but we should be able to have one of our staff there, and I can be here.
Okay. So I'm proposing 5 o'clock roughly. We could go, a little late, and so be it. How does that sound?
It's 8, you said?
Right. Does that sound okay to you, Councilor Manalis? Sound okay to you?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
Put it on the calendar.
Yep.
I'm guessing that's not how people want to spend their Friday night. So I'm thinking we should probably look at the next week.
Monday or Tuesday.
How does Tuesday, May 14th look for everyone?
So far, so good.
And we have a council meeting on the 15th.
Yeah, I would really like to get these interviews done before our next council meeting.
If you want to do them by your guys.
Nope. I do not want to do that. I want you to be there. It's important that you're there. What about, is there a way we could do it on late afternoon on Friday, May 10th?
No, not Fridays.
Guess we could look
You
at
can do it on
weekends.
Saturday.
We could.
Just for Saturday. Not me.
Okay, and we can't do it on May 3rd? Oh, that's a Friday.
No, but that's before that 5-day period.
You could do it on that Saturday, you could do it on May 4th.
I'm not meeting on Saturday.
Yeah.
How about Monday, May 13th?
We already went over that.
Oh, no, we did the 14th.
Oh, sorry.
Monday the 13th, okay.
Monday the 13th or Tuesday the 4th? You already said, yeah, so how about Monday the 13th?
It literally counts for me. I now they're at school board meetings at 9, and I have all.
Bring 'em. it.
A real
You can sit up here. Oh.
So then the next one I have is the 16th.
Available earlier that day, though.
Mondays I can't.
Thursday.
My heavy meeting day.
Thursday I'm good too. That's the meeting, but, we have a lot of people. I don't think the session's gonna be enough to get through everyone we have. You can't.
What if we did a 4-hour session? I don't want to, but I know. But I mean, this is.
You can remote on that Monday. I could probably call in remotely, driving around.
Monday, the 13th?
Oh, I wouldn't be able to, help.
No, it's just an interview, so we're not making any decisions those times. Does the Monday the 13th work for everyone? I'm bummed. I was going to go to the Tiger State of the City event that night, but.
And we're going to do 5 to 8 again?
5 to 8? Okay.
As long as I'm Zooming, I can pretty much Zoom.
Okay. Let's do it.
So how are we going to choose? Just sort of randomly throw them up in the air and go 1, 2, 3, 4?
We'll let them know.
I would say order received, right?
Well, we'll let them know what the options are. Some people might not be able to come on one date or the other, and once they fill up, right?
Do you want to have backup plans outside, like on we still have the 16th is available. I don't know if that was something that Councilman else could do, but
Maybe
after
if there's any, maybe if there's any that we weren't able to interview on those 2 interview dates, we could do at the city council meeting on the 15th.
Yeah, just as a fallback, just in case, there's, like I mentioned earlier, when we had first started this process, that the council had set time doing it the right way. That's more time, just thorough review and more thorough search on these things. So, not rushing things, but allowing us to go beyond the date of May 15th would just allow us more time to interview these candidates as well as try to get a decent length interview. Rushing, trying to back them into 15-minute sessions. That's not necessarily very common.
Mm-hmm.
We learned one time we were doing interviews. We had, I think Councilor Manellis was there for the interviews for our land use planner. And we tried to fit them in half-hour windows, and we had that. And so it's just, you want to keep it moving, but oftentimes those interviews, you have candid conversations with people, and those conversations oftentimes go over. So instead of rushing the candidate, instead of rushing ourselves, having a more personal or more open, candid conversation with those candidates sometimes is more beneficial.
Okay. Makes sense. Thank you.
I'll put the 16th on there as our
overflow. I'm not available on the 16th, unfortunately. I could be here from 5 to 6, but I have something at 6:30.
Or go to the next week.
They might not need it Thursday.
Right, that could be like our if we have 1 or 2 stragglers, we can put it on as a placeholder.
Perfect.
What's that? We'll do this.
From 5 to 6.
Okay.
Just do an hour. And if for some reason you guys are still talking and I have to go, then so be it. Not the end of the world. Okay. Interviews on.
I'm just going to put backup.
Yeah, backup. Yeah. Perfect. Hopefully we won't need it.
Right.
We do, it's there. All right. So we have 3, 6, 7, 7 hours of interviews on our calendars. 11 or 12 applicants. So that should be plenty of time. Okay.
That's the question is, can we talk about questions, or do we have to do that separately?
I was thinking we could probably do a Zoom workshop or something to that effect where we can ask those questions.
Okay.
And then that allows the council to submit the questions to the staff and then potentially draft those up and send them out to everybody in a workshop. Along with, we're going to need to send out the council applications prior to the work session for these interviews. So,
What do you mean send them out? Send them out to who?
to the council for your review and along with an agenda packet and everything else.
Gotcha.
I think it would be good if we just had even an hour-long session between now and when the interviews start, which can be any time, to sit down and put those questions on paper. That'd be great.
Okay.
I already have a list.
Perfect. So now we need to find an hour, and this can be over Zoom.
Yeah, and that I could anyway.
Okay. Mark, why don't you propose a date and time that might work for you?
Let's do. Shoot, I don't know.
We can.
Tuesday the 23rd, maybe. That gives us enough time to.
At what time are you thinking?
Like maybe 3.
Works for me.
What time?
April 23rd at 3 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Thank you for letting me know.
Time to have it Zoom.
Okay.
So the 23rd, 3.
Okay. Right. Anything else we need to discuss?
Say this really quick before we move on. Given that the date is April 17th, we're not going to be able to do it 7 days notice on work session.
Oh, okay.
But we will be able to get the notice out 24 hours prior to retirement. Still in shape. It's just we're not going to have it. So after we try to do it.
Okay. Thank you. Do either of the counselors have any more questions about the interview process, the application period window, or anything for the city staff?
No, I think we kind of covered that pretty well.
Okay.
And, you know, it's just unfortunate that we have to struggle a little bit with, as there was an,
Right. It happens. Okay. All right. So then, Councilor Manelis, did you have anything else you wanted to add or ask? Okay. So we're moving on now to item 6G, which is discuss the charter amendments for council compensation. And am I the presenter on this, or is Peter?
I can do it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're not the first jurisdiction this year that has had this conversation. In fact, so many jurisdictions are having this conversation that there might be legislation to provide flexibility because it's a lot. The 1-hour city council meetings and a couple hours a week seem to be over, and it feels, I think, for a lot of people more like a full-time job. So, like a lot of cities, do have a charter that doesn't allow for compensation other than reimbursement of expenses. One of the things I've recommended to Mike is that we look at the reimbursement policy, and that's something that can be done administratively in order to clarify reimbursements and make sure it's kind of in line with the new technology and all that that's happening now, because of course that's all changed too. The process for amending the charter to remove the prohibition on compensation and to allow for compensation or stipend. And the way that some Oregon departments have done it, it's just like a per diem. So if you have a meeting, you get meeting that day or what have you, you get $30 is kind of standard, which doesn't really compensate you for your time, but gives you a little bit. That could be done via voter initiative, so we have at least one member of the city who's interested in that, and if they submit that concept to us, we could prepare a ballot title, they could get signatures, it could be put on the ballot, and then voters vote, and they would either pass it or not. You as the city council could also put something on the ballot. You would need to declare potential conflicts of interest, because if it did, because you could receive compensation as a result of that vote if there was voter approval. So we would need to be a little bit careful just in disclosures about how that's done, but that's an option as well. And one of the things that counties do for the compensation, and so we could do this through our own rule charter, would be to create a compensation committee. So that would be probably elected officials for similarly sized cities that would look at the amount of time that you spend. And that way it wouldn't be you voting on it yourselves. It would be you accepting the recommendation of that committee. And so that's a way to do it where there's local input, and yet you aren't voting to pay yourselves. You're relying upon similarly situated individuals. So that's another way that we could do it. So there's some flexibility there, but to do anything other than expense reimbursements, it would require a charter amendment. And we could prepare some language, or if there's a resident interest in doing their own initiative, then they're of course free to structure it however they want. I just have to write the ballot title based off of their input. And that's just to comply with all the Oregon state rules related word count and all those other things, and make sure that it's new.
Is there any advantage to having you draft it versus a community member?
So I actually draft all. I draft all ballot titles, whether they're submitted by by members of the public, or whether it's the council that's putting it on the ballot. Mm-hmm. So it's just to make sure that my role is to make sure it's neutral and it meets all the statutory things. Mm-hmm. And that's oftentimes difficult for just members of the public who have a concept or idea and want to do something. So as long as I understand what they're hoping to accomplish, then I'm able to write a ballot title that meets the neutrality rules and all the other.
Well, I mean, isn't it basically just removing that line from the charter that says that we can't be compensated?
So it would likely be removing that line from the charter, but also establishing process going forward for how it's done. Okay. So if you want to do something like the county did, or the city of Vancouver actually did the same thing, it was that kind of charter committee. So it takes it out of the elected's hands, mm-hmm. and kind of puts that space between you and potential compensation. And then it seems like I've heard from the League of Oregon Cities that there's a lot of interest statewide in this. So it seems probable that there would be legislation, but the easiest way to do it would be locally through our own rule powers.
So I just want to clarify. So first step is writing something up and then having it gathering signatures, correct?
If someone in the community wants to submit something, wants to submit a petition, then, and as long as it says, like, what I heard tonight from a member of the community, so I'm just going to use that as an example, would be a salaried mayor of a salary not to exceed X. And then a stipend for counselors at a rate of Y. It's whatever they would want, however they want to structure that. If they want to structure that through an independent committee, then, that their concepts have to specify what they would like to accomplish, and then I have to figure out how that fits within the charter. So to your point, that would definitely require amending, deleting some language in that section. Also require looking at the other provisions of the charter to make sure there isn't some collateral other charter provision that would need to be as well. If the the members of the community aren't interested in that, but this is something that the city council conceptually is interested in, then again, we need to declare potential conflicts of interest or kind of conversations with the particulars. But then if you have an idea of what those particulars would look like, and there are certainly examples. I know Wilsonville, I know West Lynn, I know Lake Oswego, not sure about Tualatin. They all have, I think Tigard, they all have kind of stipend systems that you could look at. And those vary pretty dramatically. So, okay.
Yeah. I would just caution, we're not a very big city. So when we're talking those kind of numbers for budget purposes,
Yeah.
you know, I think.
Just an example of
Sure.
the way you structure it.
Yeah, thank you.
All for a compensation package for sure. It's just a city that we know the city can afford for now. And
Absolutely.
And then structure it again perhaps then.
Yeah. So I'm hopeful that the community members will be supportive of this. I feel like some of the community members I've spoken with have said that they would support this. So it would be amazing if the community members would be willing to gather signatures to get this on the ballot. And we're talking about November ballot, right?
So the signatures would need to be in by mid-August.
Okay. And just to clarify, this isn't for my benefit because I'll be leaving office at the end of the year, but I think it's important that we do this so that we can attract and retain really quality people to fill these seats. And because it is very time consuming and it is a lot of responsibility. And I think that it's long overdue that the mayor is a paid position in King City and that the councilors at the very minimum receive stipend for technology stipends for their time. So that's I just want to throw that out there and go on record saying it's not necessarily to benefit me personally, and I probably won't benefit from it, but.
Sherwood is doing a rate study right now on what to pay their councilors, their charters just like ours, I believe. And so one of them called me earlier this week and asked what we pay ours. I was like, that's a good question because we're looking at that as a possibility and looking into setting up the structure, but right now our charter doesn't allow us anything other than a reimbursement.
So we could work with them in other jurisdictions to bring back. So you can kind of see what's home.
There's two options here, though. I think that there's the option where the city proposes it as a charter amendment, and then we have to declare potential conflicts of interest, and then that goes to a voter referendum. Or you have the voter initiative referendum that then goes out, circulates signatures.
Yeah.
I think both are viable options that we could pursue. I know that we're looking at our charter because our charter hasn't been updated in years. It might be a good time to take a look at, like, I think League of Oregon Cities has sample charters that we could pull, and then just adopt a whole new charter that establishes a mayor, establishes council elected positions, even established districts, might establish a better flow for some of the work products that we do. And we are going to be growing in the very near future, and we're going to have some growing pains in that time frame, keeping up with all the demands upon us, keeping up with staffing shortages, and then trying to expand our staff when we're already out of space in this building. So all these things that we're looking at, additional police officers, additional staff members, all these elements are just now starting and will be coming into play over the course of the next year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And this is just one of those growing elements that I feel is important as well. And we can do it piecemeal and just do one piece here and then come back later for another full charter amendment, or, we can maybe pull a charter from Lee Morgan City and, have a work session and hash it out without adopting a new charter.
I know that's something Max has been working on, right? Doing some charter updates.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, just updating the language and a lot of the information in the charter and older language in the code is just actually incorrect. So it doesn't account for places like Edgewater, certain subdivisions that weren't designed when it was still, and there's also like statistical information in there that's super outdated. So it's just going to be a pretty big process, but I'm hoping to get at least, the way that we want to approach it is we want to have chunks of code amendments to bring to the council at a time so that it can be done in a more comprehensive way. Same with the charter as well. But pretty much comprehensively the entire thing.
I know that the city of Tigard right now is advertising that they're going to have some charter amendments on their ballot coming up. Is it reasonable to expect that we could have some charter amendments ready to go by this November's ballot as well, or not?
I have been working on this new charter of theirs for a while now. With everything going on, we have an 800 unit subdivision going on. We have the West Side Trail, planning work going on.
Right.
And trying to find new council members. It's been a bit of a lift over the last. So we could do some amendments for some of the kind of badly out of date and others already, but you're going to need to do kind of comprehensive. Yeah. Because we need to make sure that your charter and code conform with state law. And that's, when they don't conform with state law, we go with state law. But the problem is people might look it up in the charter and contrary to state law, and then they're like, well, you're not following your charter. And it's like, well, yeah, because the legislature gets to come in and supersede us, on a variety of issues of statewide importance.
So could we take, like, LOC charter amendment that's already written around compensation, and then say, if there was a community member group that wanted to do it, give it to them, here's basic framework, change it how you will, do it, you guys put the company, that way it's, the legal framework is there that follows the state constitution, or the state laws that way.
I think with the compensation isn't set by the state, but we could provide you guys with some examples of what other cities are doing. The members of the community could see those, comment on them. If there's one that they thought would work really well for King, they could kind of.
You don't have to recreate it, right?
Yeah, they could say, hey, we like the
boilerplate, they can go with it, yeah.
The Wilsonville model was set up when Wilsonville was kind of the same size as King, obviously, but yeah, so I think that there are a variety of approaches, and it's kind of up to the residents of King City to decide which one would work best for them.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I like the idea of the community members gathering the signatures, because it would be nice to have the community's support behind this, going door to door, similar to what they did in the very recent past. So that's how I feel about it.
I feel like a citizen charter committee is a better way to go.
Yeah.
With ultimately Peter's expertise in actually writing the amendments, but at least to get down the basic ideas from the citizen committee. And it's a little horrifying to think that the charter hasn't really been gone over for 60 years. Yep. In my brain, I'm thinking that that's something that should be, kind of like wills and trusts should probably be, have somewhere between a 5 and 10 year mandatory look as part of the charter.
Well, they used to do periodic reviews.
Yes. Not saying that you would necessarily change what's in it, but maybe every 5 years it's mandatory that you review the information to see if there are things, because life keeps changing faster than I can think.
Well, I mean, the other thing is, and Peter touched on this a little bit, but there are consistent mandates from the state of Oregon, and just keeping up with them, it's a real struggle for larger cities. For smaller cities like us who don't have the legislative staff or the legislative lobbying arm, like a Hillsborough or a Portland, but even cities like Tigard struggle to keep up. Cities like and Sherwood all struggle to keep up with the legislation comes out of Salem on a consistent basis, and some of it tends to chip away at the home rule charter a bit. So it's a bit of a struggle, like the CFAC stuff that's just coming down now, the climate friendly and equitable community piece. That's basically taking away our parking, the House Bill 2001-2003, which took away our ability to single-family dwelling sites. There's new stuff coming down from the U.S. Supreme Court that takes away or can potentially hinder development charges and things of that nature. So it's just a continuing onslaught in trying to keep up with it all. But I know Mr. Watts needs to go. There's a different thing. There's no other questions I'd like to see. And we'll pull some in.
Okay. Great, thank you. Thank you, Peter. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Susan, right? Is that something that, so Susan is the webmaster, she sent me an email, so I'm reading it. The webmaster for the Unite King City website? That'd be great. I mean, if somebody would, head up some kind of a committee like you suggested, that'd be wonderful. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Okay. Anything else anyone wants to add to that agenda item, councilors? Nope. Gotta bring my.
I do want to add something.
Now we're back to A.
Yeah, go ahead.
When we start something like this, I think there needs to be sort of a target date for reporting back progress. Because if there's no accountability date, then things just sort of slip away. At least in my life.
Would you mind being the liaison?
Sure. I'll be the liaison.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments about that? Okay, then we will go ahead and move on to the February 2020. Actually, you know what? Let's take a 5-minute break. What?
I would just ask one other thing, because like the financials are more like our business.
Have a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I've been reading this. Yeah.
Yes.
You need,
So there's a motion, and we were wondering if you want to second the motion to move item 6D up in the agenda to next.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay. So our next item is the development agreement for New Homes Company. And our presenter, is it Mike Weston or is it New Home?
I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Ezra here, who is our agreement. He and I were the ones that work on the development permit in coordination with New Home Company. Attorney Steve Holberg, owner of the New Home Company, and Pam, who's here today, and trying to work through all the negotiating pieces that compile this agreement. And Ezra has pulled over this thing for some time, and has finally come, hopefully, to a mutual agreement between all parties that seems to work. We have received some conditions as the application moves forward from some other agencies that aren't necessarily in compliance with our conditions, but they're close. And so what we did is we provided you a slight adjustment that I'm going to let Ezra talk about.
I'm sorry, before you get started, I'm getting some feedback on the speaker. I'm not sure who that is.
The new audio.
Got it.
Buzz you hear?
No, it sounds like
I can't hear.
somebody's microphone is on Zoom or something like that. Did you hear that?
Yep, I got it. I just
Yeah, it was
Okay. All right. Thank you. Sorry. Go ahead, Ezra.
The manager mentioned we were retained by the city to assist in drafting a development agreement with the city home company as part of the Kingston Terrace, the Kingston Terrace Town Center plan. The development agreement is essentially a contract between the city and the developer that allows you to specify certain things that aren't otherwise captured in your zoning code or in your city codes generally. And this development agreement really accomplishes three purposes. First is it determines at what point in time certain transportation improvements need to be completed. Transportation components are associated with various phases of the project, so that each phase and its associated transportation can be built at a particular time. It sets up a process whereby the developer will fund and then build out a series of 3 parks and then receive reimbursement for the work of building out those parks, taking that responsibility off the city. And it grants you leverage to hire an outside consultant to manage that process, which the developer will be responsible for, but it kind of takes that responsibility of developing the parks and managing that process off the city. And then 3, it sets up a system whereby a temporary stormwater system will be created. That system will then be decommissioned later on in the development of the master plan community. That site will be fully remediated and then will be offered to the city for purchase as part of your future municipal site where your future city hall will go. As Mike mentioned, last night we received comment from Clean Water Services. They raised several concerns with the development agreements. Based on those concerns, we drafted some amendments provided to you. That development agreements that are aligned with Clean Water Services. Additionally, the first proposed amendment relates to, ensures that the city has essentially reiterates the fact that the city is only responsible for its own land use and permitting process. Applicants, will need to have approval from various agencies beyond the city as part of the development process. And the amended recital merely highlights the fact that you are responsible, what you are responsible for, and so happy to answer any particular questions you have about the development agreement or the process. And what we are asking for is for your blessing and authorization to grant the city manager, the authorization to sign the development agreement in the form substantially similar to the one in front of you, with the amendments that have also been provided with you, and also granting him the authorization to make other technical, non-material edits if those need to be made before the development agreement is signed.
So the amendment that was just put on our desk right before we got here, that Clean Water Services sent over, I guess. Did the developer agree to the amendment? Okay, got it. Okay, just want to make sure that was.
They want to make sure fire hydrants work, and
that's why we went with the kind of a generalized statement that the applicant is responsible for satisfying other agency criteria.
Got it.
Our development permit is somehow in conflict with some other agencies, and we want to make sure that it's not us that has to go somehow find compliance. It's up to the applicant or the developer.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I did have a question. In the terms of agreement on the end of page 2, it's terms of agreement, item number 2, transportation infrastructure. It's talking about well, like item C, I'll just read it. In all instances where private property is needed for public right-of-way in order to complete transportation improvements for transportation infrastructure, blah, 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 blah. My question is, isn't all of that land, hasn't it already been purchased by Metropolitan Land Group? All the land that is that area, in that area?
Option to purchase based on the approval of entitlement. They own some of it, but not all of it.
Okay. Okay. So are there areas in the town center area that the developer doesn't own?
Or will own.
Still own.
They have options on that.
Right.
So the area in which you're asking a question, that's a good question. There could be areas that are not yet owned, or we would have, for instance, Al's Garden Center would agree to improve their frontage. They have to do.
Okay.
Right.
But there wouldn't be any, because it goes on to say that the developer shall use good faith efforts to obtain the necessary property. If, however, exhausting good faith efforts, the developer is unable to do so, the city shall obtain the property. I just want to make sure that we're clear that this isn't like some kind of eminent domain thing that we need to be concerned about. This is all has to do with that area where the town center is going to be developed, which is already, you already have an option to purchase.
With the exception of off-site improvement. So if ODOT or Washington County or somebody requires new homes to make off-site improvements on property that they don't have an option on. Say, for instance, like Elsner Road, I think their traffic impact analysis identifies a right turn lane on Elsner Road. Is that correct? Can you remember? Well, if there's some sort of, I don't believe that there's going to be anything triggered here based on what the exhibits are in the development permit and in the development agreement. But if there is something that some outside agency triggers and they don't have an option to acquire that, then we have to use the city's acquisition powers to acquire that and be reimbursed. That makes sense. So if we have to do something at East Bend intersection, we have to do something along 99W. Those are options where the city would have to execute their municipal powers, or ODOT would, or Washington County would, in order to meet conditions that are unforeseen. I think ODOT came up with a comment about doing a study on at least 3 intersections. The home company is going to look at those 3 intersections along 99W.
That makes sense. Councilors, do you have questions, comments, concerns?
No, I don't have any questions.
Go ahead. You first.
No, I don't have questions. I was just going to say, like, as I was reading through it,
Yeah.
started glitching out on me, but
That's not a couple of hours reading it.
exactly, yeah.
And it seemed pretty clear, and it sounded like there are going to be accommodating turn lanes to help alleviate traffic backflow.
Yeah, they have to make the traffic improvements, right? Yeah. Go to Rogers.
Those would be conditioned in our
I guess my only question is the little piece about the temporary water facility. Just what exactly happens when, since it's temporary? So when you're done with the development.
So right now, I'll kind of jump in. Right now, it is a irrigation pond. And they're going to use the irrigation pond that's currently there as a temporary stormwater retention facility until they finish construction on the larger retention facility to the south of that particular. And then when they finish construction of the new, larger stormwater retention facility, then the old irrigation pond, which would be used as a temporary site, would then need to be filled and acted and meet geotech for, I think we're looking at potentially up to a 3-story city hall in that location based on the size. So they would just need to meet those geotechs, and that statement is in the development agreement that that site will be to a position where it would be development ready.
So it will be filled and not become a natural water feature or anything of that nature?
Yeah, one of the things that they had submitted was their delineation of that pond and the mitigation for filling that at the end, part of their development.
All right, any other questions from the council? Okay. So we need to, somebody needs to make a motion to approve or disapprove the development agreement.
Mayor,
Yes,
if I may.
sure,
the
please.
request is sign incorporates the edits.
Okay. Okay.
It's word periods, errand periods, or the agreement.
Do you want to write that down for us so we can just read it?
So just to simplify it, you need a motion that authorizes the city manager to execute the development agreement with any minor technical.
So moved.
Need a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? All right. Moving right along. Okay, now we're on A.
Because they were updated.
Yeah, Z to Y to M to, okay. So we are now at, thank you, Ezra. Have a good night. We're now at February 2024 financials. There's my question.
You're still on, but she wants to jump on, Ronnie.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Mira.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yes, thank you.
Hi. Yes, so for the February 2024, the financial statement summary. So we completed the February 2024 bank rec for 3 bank accounts. So we have U.S. Bank, State Pool account, and Umpqua Bank. The U.S. Bank is the new account, which will replace the Umpqua Bank. That's why we have 3 now. So, but mainly we are using U.S. Bank. The highlights, are we go over the general fund? The first one. So the first one,
Okay.
general fund. As you can see, the interest revenue is more than what we budgeted. That's because the state pool account interest rate is 5.2% as of end of February. And we have, the revenue coming. And any question on general fund? Particular question?
I probably have one. I think I had one. Let me.
Okay.
Let me find it here. Maybe that wasn't in general fund. No, it wasn't in. Sorry, I don't have a question for this particular segment. But the other counselors might. Do you have any questions in regards to the general fund? Counselor
Yeah,
Miller?
for the general fund under expenditure, city council account. That's for February, 16,561. I just want to point out that's mostly it's for the legal service fee. Yeah.
Thank you.
And general fund, and the ending balance is 2.4 for general fund. So, which is good. Okay, so for the,
Mira, can you hear me all right?
yes,
The February financials reflect any of the building permit revenues that we've received so far?
no,
I
no,
didn't see any in there. I was just wondering if it's next month.
no, we started receiving the building permits for the habitat in March, end of March and beginning of February, April.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why
I was
we
just wondering where it
transferred.
was.
Yes, not here. Yeah, because you see under building permits for February is 4,000. So next month you will see in March we'll have a lot of money come in as building permits. Yeah, next month in March. All right. So the next one.
Thank you.
Yeah, next one is street fund. So any particular questions? Street fund is the state gas tax. And yeah, we have a special grant. Yeah, see the footnote here, we received 137,000 grant. That was for the project last year, November, for the street and trail improvement project.
Okay. Remind me, Mara, what the under expenditures, why the capital improvements were so high? I'm spacing on
Capital improvement? Which one?
Capital improvements, the year to date, we're at 454,000. Is that
Oh,
for street
okay.
maintenance? Okay. I
Yes.
just wasn't sure what that was. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's the street improvement we did. We
Okay,
spent
thank you.
a lot of money on that street improvement, yeah. So, all right, so
Do any of the other counselors have questions on the street fund summary? Dan, do you have any questions on the street fund summary?
Oh, but I'm glad you brought up about the $412,000.
yeah, that's what we
huge.
budgeted. Yeah. We budgeted
Yeah,
412, yes, but we spent it for 454. That's for the
Right.
Mike, what project was that? The street
It was
improvement?
the old one. It was approved.
It was a street project from this last summer, and there was some extra call-outs for the engineers with bricks because they weren't certain how to handle some of the ADA ramps up on Park 4 and others, and so we had extra call-outs that got billed out for both the asphalt group and our engineers, and the cost moved past our
Yeah, I
expectations.
think I remember we had to approve that
There was,
cost.
yes.
It was like in July or August or September, somewhere in there.
We brought it when it came in, and we weren't very happy.
Yeah, I think they called them out for every tiny little thing, our engineer, and they would charge him every time. So I think now we were gonna update the bid packet, right? So
So they couldn't do that,
Yeah.
and we did do that with Full John, so this next round won't have that same.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Great. Mira, you want to
All right.
continue?
Okay, so next one is the local option fund, local levy.
Mm-hmm.
So here, I want to point out the ending balance as for February is negative just because the revenue less than the expenditure. Because the expenditure, we transfer $32,708 to general fund each month. So because at the end of the budget year, this account will be zero out. Yeah, all the fund we receive will transfer to general fund. That's why we divide it by 12. So that's the amount we transfer each month. But for that month, property tax, not much. So the revenue is less than the expenditure. That's why it's negative
And
for
Mara,
February.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Mara? And
Yes.
when the local option levy gets transferred over to the general fund, it offsets the police budget, correct? Because the police budget
Yes.
is about $1.5 million, which includes local option levy.
Yeah, that's all including, yeah, in general fund. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's for police. Yeah, for police budget, yes. All right.
Okay.
Okay, the next one will be the park system development fund. So we have nothing going on here. So, but probably next month you will see we have the SDC coming. So not this month. So we just accrue interest, 399. All right. Next one will be the APA fund. It's nothing going on in February, so just accrue the interest. So the next one will be the TDT fund. Same thing happened, but we just transfer $250 each month to the general fund to cover admin expenses. So pretty straightforward. That's it. Any question?
Questions, Jan? Or
No.
No, I didn't.
I think I already asked my questions. Thank you, Mara.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, did you have anything to add?
I think we're doing pretty well budgetarily for the year. We had a few expenditures that were over, the street one being one of them. I can say the others that we overexpended are, or that were higher than what I want to be anyways. They're overexpended, but they're higher than I want to, are the legal and the public outreach. But I think that we're still going to need to do more public outreach, and so that number's probably going to increase. And that's why you'll see the supplemental budget that's coming down. But we've also seen a big increase in revenue in courts, revenue in passports, and permit revenue. And we just saw some huge STC movement, so those will also be there for the development and you'll see that in the March. You'll see the revenues of that in the March, and you probably see it in the supplemental budget next year too.
I'm assuming March will be robust.
March will be very robust for
Great.
City.
Great.
More robust than we probably ever have.
Good. Well, if that's all that you have for us, then I will entertain a motion.
Excuse me. I move that we accept the February budget, the February financials as presented.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? You were raising your hand. You went like that right when I... Okay. Sure, go for it.
So the next item on the agenda is Resolution 2024-04. It's a resolution to transfer the ARPA funds over into the general fund in the Park SDC and to close out the ARPA funds. We were supposed to expend our ARPA funds by the end of 2024. We took the debt option. There's a $10 million debt limit option that cities could claim, and that was the option that we took last year. We had a conversation about it, I think probably last March or last April, February.
I think February
last February, we had the same conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't pass the resolution, and so this is the resolution for that fund, and it puts it into, other funds that can be allocated to infrastructure, and other purposes that ARPA is designated for, and we can get those monies spent, this summer potentially. Probably use them on streets, use them on parks, use them on, infrastructure, things of that nature. And we should have a grant program that we awarded as well to Space Age, who was our applicant. Yes.
Oh, yeah, how much was their check? I forgot.
It's 30 plus.
$30,000+ that was ARPA funds
Yeah.
that we,
Or is the local business.
Great.
For.
awesome.
What option did we take?
For what, Sean?
ARPA funds?
They were just gonna pass this resolution.
What option did we take? Was it
Oh,
$10 million?
it was the, up to $10 million debt service option, there we go. Anyone who receives under 10 million, you can claim the 10 million, up to $10 million debt service option, now the ARPA fund. And it was just,
That's great.
and then, of course, our resolution previously has it designated for, certain uses, and we still hope to use it for that in cooperation with Clean Water Services for like some purple line extensions and other infrastructure projects. So they're moving a little bit slower than what we have time for. So it was either file an extension or file it.
Yeah. Okay. So are you going to read the resolution?
If you'd like me to.
Please.
Resolution R 2024-04, resolution to transfer ARPA funds to the general fund and park SDT fund and to close the ARPA fund. Whereas the city is authorized to move ARPA funds of less than $10 million, whereas the city council wishes to allocate funds for projects and lost revenue, and whereas Oregon Revised Statutes Chapter 294.450 specifically authorizes the governing body of a municipal corporation to transfer budget appropriations within a particular fund department and budget category when a need arises. Now therefore be it resolved, staff is directed to transfer the ARPA funds to the following funds: transfer $100,000 to the Park SDT fund for the RFFA Westside Trail project, and B, transfer the remaining amounts to the general funds. Introduced and adopted by the City of King City Council and signed by Mayor in authentication of its passage the 17th day of April 2020.
Great. Remind us again what the balance is.
Right now it's about $658,000.
Wow. Sounds like a good salary for a mayor.
We're not sure that the citizens of the city would be behind that.
Myself up. Okay. So, let's see. We need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution R 2024-04.
And I second it.
All those in favor?
I need to feel like a broken record.
I just wanted to say tomorrow is another session with the Treasury Department. So myself and Mira will be sitting in on that meeting. And Mr. Hammer, our legal counsel who was here earlier, he and I plan to sit down like next week and just hammer out all the ARPA legality and our final.
Thank you. Moving on to another resolution, Resolution R 2024-03. Presenter, Mike West.
Yes, this is our supplemental budget, and news that we are well over on our projected revenues, and budget basically says if you go over 10% on any given category, then you need to start bringing it back for a supplemental budget, and that is what we're here to do today. There are many categories where we are now modifying what our revenue side looks like, and also modifying what our contingency and reserve for future funds will look like. There are minor amendments on staffing, hired this guy, prior to Officer Huffman leaving for the Tiger. But as you go through and you look at what's before you, the first column after the long 9-digit column is the adopted budget. The number in the middle is how much that particular column is changing. The number on the right side is what is being proposed as the revised budget for fiscal year. I could go through it line item by line item, but I think it's easier if you just have a look. I would draw your attention to the middle columns because those are the most interesting. Those are the changes between the two. If you have any big questions, I'll be happy to try to.
I like that number that I see there, the $1.5 million
Big number, right?
in revenue.
In revenue, yeah.
Huge number for a little town.
A lot of that is development related. Got it.
And that ARPA fund. Right, and the ARPA fund, right?
Yeah.
I don't have any questions on the revenues. Do you have any questions on the revenues?
No.
Can we move on to the expenditures? Just kind of.
So the idea behind a government budget is it has to balance. So it has to be 0-0 at the end of the year. What we do to accommodate for the extra revenue that we've garnered that we don't necessarily have an expense for is we put it into our contingency or our reserve for future funding. And then those funds can be used at a later date or be allocated to other purposes. So in this situation, you see a $900,000 difference to our reserve for future expenditures. That's basically the funds that we've received from permitting, the ARPA funds, and some of the system development charges that we are collecting. This is just one of the 4 that are currently going. So this is one of those developments. We have 4 currently going. So when we start seeing system development charges from the other 4 hitting, start seeing it. That's why in the development agreement you see escrow account and escrow fund manager to manage that fund because it's a multi-million-dollar fund, and we're bringing in an expert from Walton Hills Parks and Recreation who specializes in park SCC and to help us manage that fund in coordination with our law firm. So what's coming down the pipe is going to be a whole new chapter for King City and may require us to start looking into staffing areas for managing some of this stuff. Police to help control our streets out there, staff members to help navigate all the permits that are coming at us. Carter here has had his plate full for the last few months, and it's overflowing, and he's probably losing his mind a little bit. So, and we have the union agreement coming down the pipe. We have policy manuals that we're hoping to get online. So he really hasn't had a policy manual for years, and we're trying to, look at. We just finished the police side, now we're trying to look at the admin side. So there's a lot happening behind the scenes. I feel like the duck on the pond, like paddling away underneath. But this is a reflection, and you're going to see it get a lot bigger.
Is there interest that accrues in these escrow accounts?
There would be, yes. And at the end of the day, the escrow account is managed in a way to that the developer can pull from the escrow account to do the improvements that will be deeded over to the city at the end of the day. And any remaining fund that's in that escrow account will go to the city to work on future parks projects. The way that the Kingston Terrace development works is the bulk of the housing is over on the west side, along Roy Rogers and between Elsner and Roy Rogers. We're gonna see that first. So we're gonna see a huge balloon of revenue for the city coming out of that piece. But that revenue also serves to improve trails and parks throughout all of King Terrace. Now, you're still going to get revenue for the rest of the areas as they develop in King Terrace. It just won't be as impactful because we won't have the same level of density that we will in business. But every STC that we receive is very impactful and will have a direct benefit to the residents.
Are there, I guess, private escrow managers, much like we hire Peter Watts to be our city attorney, and previously you had, I can't think of his name, as our planning.
Yeah. So the person that we're talking about hiring is, her name is Melanie Moon, and she's done these projects for Tualatin Hills Parks and Rec and managed their STC project. Her bill is paid for. Development agreement says that the developer pays for her time, energy, and efforts. She works for us. She manages the fund for us at the developer's expense, and no cost. The whole idea behind Kingston Terrace is there's no cost to current residents. Once development pays for it. That's what it was intended. That's what these FTC. Answer your question.
Thank you. Yes, you answered my question.
Any other questions for anyone? I'm going to take a second to just commend you, Mike. I know you're under fire a lot from some community members, but I think you just do such an exceptional job at what you do, and you have to know so much about so many things that I'm just really impressed by you. And this is just an example of why I'm impressed. You explain things really well, so that we can understand, because it's really complex, all of it, and just want to commend you. Okay. Resolution, the whole thing? Oh, there it is.
Resolution.
Okay. Would you mind reading it, please?
Resolution 2024-03, a resolution allowing a supplemental budget increase and decrease pursuant to ORS 294.338, providing for the receipt, appropriations, and expenditure of unexpected funds, whereas there are expenditures that have occurred or are expected to occur during the 2023-2024 fiscal year were not included in the city's original budget, and whereas the King City will follow local budget laws and administrative rules as determined by the Oregon Department of Revenue, which necessitated filing a supplemental budget. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of King City that City Council hereby approves fiscal year 23-24 supplemental budget 1, changes as noted in Exhibit A and Resolution 2023-07, which adopted the 2023-2024 annual budget, is hereby amended. This resolution shall take effect immediately upon its passage. Introduced and adopted this 17th day of April 2024, signed by the mayor.
I move that I move that we adopt resolution R 2024-03.
Second.
All those in favor? So next, a little confused here. Fiscal year 23-24 supplemental budget hearing notice. For hearing?
Mira?
I think it's like a night tour.
Sorry about the echo.
Mm-hmm.
hearing is us here talking about the budget. We had a forum earlier, talk about the budget.
Okay. Yeah.
You could ask the audience if they want to. Have anything to say.
Well, is it a public hearing or is it?
Public hearing is us sitting here talking about the budget in a public audience.
Right? Okay.
It just says budget hearing.
Does anyone have anything that they would like to question or add regarding the budget, supplemental budget?
Convener again. Great job, Mike. I had an opportunity to review it. I'm really glad it was published in the newspaper so that any Tom, Dick, or Harry would have a chance to look at things in depth. And I think it's really wise to get as much money into your reserve accounts as possible. Knows what's going to happen in situations as such as we are in today. So, good job. Keep it up.
Thank you, Gretchen.
Thank you, Gretchen.
Okay. So, anyone else? I'm sorry. Anyone else? So we're going to close that budget hearing, apparently.
I don't know.
Your hearing. I didn't know we were having a hearing. Okay. So, let's see. We've done new homes, company. We have E.
Oh, well, yeah.
We haven't done E.
Oh, council.
So should we do council appointments or wait until we have a full council?
I know, right?
Really only 4 that I
Okay.
need us to address.
Okay. Let's just do those 4 then.
Chair, we can put the rest off.
Yep.
To a later date, but, really the big ones are the WCCC, the Washington County, Coordinating Committee.
Mm-hmm.
I really need someone on that. It's typically the mayor. So Mayor Thompson, if you wouldn't mind, taking the lead role as a primary on that. They
Okay.
meet, I think, once a month on the, third Monday of the month.
So, yeah. Generally the second or third Monday.
Second or third Monday?
Yeah. His words exactly.
Typically, I'm usually in the audience in case you need me and they can promote me if necessary, but I'm usually a participant there. I also participate in the TAC. It's more for you, Mayor.
Okay. And then my alternate would be probably the president.
Probably President.
You okay with that, President? Liz? Okay. I do want to mention one thing, the WACA, Washington County Consolidated Communication Association, and I've talked to Chief Hapla about this. I really feel I've been the rep on that for, I think, the whole time I've been a counselor. It really feels to me like it's really better suited for somebody that's in the police force because it's really just talking all about things that apply directly to his career. So, are you okay with becoming the official, and I feel like we already had this conversation, but I just wanted to go, okay. So you're going to be the primary on that. And then would it make sense to have Lieutenant Sigler be the alternate? Okay. So noted. Thank you. You may continue. Oh, sorry.
Sigler.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Next big one that I had is the Washington County Community Development Block Grant. This is no easy lift. This is a big commitment, and it takes time and energy to end. It used to be, our primary used to be Councilor Paulson, and he was on this. A lot of reading, a lot of material, but it's very important on the grants that Washington County issues out to our lower income areas, those that qualify for HUD money, and other grants. So CDBG is the next big one.
probably have the most time.
Because I
Sort of.
I was going, please say you want to do it, Jan. Thank you.
Well, actually, I do, because
Great.
that's what a lot of a community development degree is all about.
There you go.
That's the Washington County Community Block Grant, and somebody would give me the information, right?
Thank you.
So who's my alternative?
I could be alternative.
Okay, awesome.
Perfect.
The next important one that I want to do is the West Side Economic Alliance. The West Side Economic Alliance used to be, we were only allowed 2 people for our membership, and that's typically the mayor and myself. But now they have like registrations where other councilors and things can also register to attend these meetings. And actually, Councilor Tyso attended one just like 2 weeks ago now.
I just went to their, what was that, the last one.
Great, because we didn't have a rep, and so we needed somebody. Yeah, they actually have great ones. There's actually a mayor forum coming up here at the end of the month that Mayor Thompson, I don't know if it's late to get in on or something, but we can reach out and see.
I just got an email about it today, actually. So it said, should I click to register? It said,
yes. So I'll try to register as well, and perhaps both of us can attend that particular forum.
Yeah.
I also want to reach out to their new executive director. I don't remember her name off the top of my head, but we can maybe get you on the podium as well.
on the podium?
Yeah, you can join the mayor, the other mayor in the metro region.
Oh, boy.
So,
yeah. Since you're on that section of mayor and president assignments, can we just double check and make sure everybody's okay with their assignments on those?
For which one?
Everything on that page. So you got the
Mayor and president assignment?
Yeah, the last page is Oregon Mayors Association, HOA meetings, if we're doing that or not. West Side of the Lot, we already talked about that, and then Greater Portland.
So you have President Manelis on here, and typically those are ones I go to.
Which one are we talking about? I'm so sorry.
This is Portland
Greater Portland, Inc.
Greater Portland, West Side Economic Alliance.
Okay.
I'll probably have to go to the anyways, but.
Oh, so you've already assigned me for those. Okay, I see. Got it.
By default.
Got it.
I just did what
Okay.
you've done.
Because I saw my name on there and I went, wait a minute, I'm the primary? When did that happen? Okay, it just happened. Okay. Got it. Yeah, just spun a wheel.
Oregon Mayors Association, you're on there too.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and then the Mayor's Association will have you register for that as well. Those were the big 4 that I had. The other ones that I feel are important are the metro ones, ear to the ground and a seat at the table. We don't necessarily we're not necessarily invited to participate because there's one rep for all the small cities. But it's really good to understand what our one rep is doing and if they even bother to show up, and if we have to keep a seat at the table.
Yeah.
So if policies that somehow impact us, we're able to hear about them before, and then maybe team up with other cities.
Yeah. Who's the current rep? What city?
Jonathan, I think.
No, I'm sorry. Which small city is the current?
I want to say it was Woodville. Right.
Where's Woodville?
Woodville, over in by Tri-Town.
Woodville is in Washington.
Woodville's a long way.
Wood Village, sorry.
Oh, Wood Village. Oh, by Troutdale.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we ran into a similar thing on WACA where there was one representative for all the small cities, and they were never showing up, and I was always showing up.
That's what we've noticed too.
We got it changed to I became the designated one. I was the only one going.
Could be wrong too.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you went to the Metro?
I did.
Oh, Jay.
I went to MPAC and MTAC both, since both of them are Zooms.
Right.
But I'm just an audience member.
Okay.
Remember who the small cities rep was?
What?
Do you remember who the small cities rep was? For those?
No, I don't know who the small city rep is.
He used to be
I can probably find out,
yeah.
if you know.
So are either of those committees ones that you would enjoy being our primary on? But you don't have to. I mean, we're going to hopefully have 4 more counselors, right? So can we table those?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I send out the notice of those meetings anyway, so you all get those.
Yeah.
But it seems like MPAC and MTAC sort of cross each other's sphere of influence a lot. I'm looking at my notes from meetings and it's like, there's not a lot of difference.
Okay. So, so we'll fill the rest of the appointments once we have a full council. I think we have enough on our plates right now, don't we?
We do.
Okay.
We're going to have meeting on top of meeting on top of meeting. Yeah.
All right, so the last thing under new business is item number H, discuss and consider OLCC application for Logan Family Market LLC Grocery Outlet, Inc. Mike West.
To present this, or to you, Ronnie?
Ronnie.
Why don't you, turn off the microphone, you good?
I guess I'll.
There's one up here.
So, this is just an OLCC application. Grocery Outlet is having a new ownership transfer, so. So this is just kind of their normal thing. Brian did a quick background check, and it came back clear. So, Chief, anything to add on that? So it's up to your guys' pleasure, either approving it, denying it.
I think we need to keep everybody happy buying.
Oh, yeah. 20% off.
By the way,
At least.
that we'd like them in.
Right. Yes. Every time, yes. Okay, well, I'll entertain a motion to approve that then.
I make a motion to approve the OLCC application for Logan Family Market LLC Grocery Outlet, Inc.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
3-0.
Okay, moving right along to Police Chief's report. Chief Appola.
I will go quickly. I don't know if anybody has seen it, but finally, something I ordered in 2023 showed up. It's a new Dodge Durango patrol vehicle that's outside. It has the new paint scheme that we have been talking about for a couple of years, where it's an all-black vehicle, and it's just been on our way. And I actually came under budget on this one, which so the budget is 68, and it's a little over 58,000. Change for it. The radio that I thought I was going to have to buy for $6,500 was back ordered to July, so we actually had a problem with our Dodge car. Deadline of that was just start to see it. We're kind of doing some familiarity. It's probably starting to be out on the streets around the first week of May. We're fine tuning some things. Got a lot more gadgets that we haven't had before in some of the vehicles. So working with that. And then another thing from 2023 that we had actually signed up 2 senior officers that will be attending the Metro Sergeant's Academy. We signed them up about 8. And for that happens. So that's 80 hours of training. It's 2 weeks. Ends at the end of this month through the first week in May. And so it's one of those trainings that allows, further their careers and get, look toward leadership roles for when we have those positions that are open. And so it's a good thing for them to go to. It's a really cool school because it's a school that's put on through Clackamas County and in the major cities. And then we also use a lot of Portland stuff. We're out at their training academy where we have a scenario village where you're a supervisor on call. And then they also, one of the cool things is they actually hire actors, come out there and play these parts, and then they actually have real news crews that show up at these scenes and reporters and that sort of thing. So it's kind of a real life exposure to what can happen.
Yeah.
And so that will be coming up real soon. Any questions?
Who's driving the new Durango?
Nobody yet. So I'm kind of letting them fight over it a little bit and stuff. And so, I mean, like I said, that's budgeting for another one idea. They'll be out there, so they'll.
I'm glad it finally came. I know you've been.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Eating.
I ordered that last July.
Right.
And so it's one of those. And for those, I think Mark, you had asked about, so I dug into the electric vehicles
right.
that are down, the upfit for this rig. And so we started talking about pickup that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so the cost on it, I was looking at, and our cost would be, bare bones would be $70 just for the.
Whoa.
And then I started asking about the structure to bring in the charging stations and stuff, and I started finding out that they're around, starting is around $25,000.
Oh.
And stuff, so it jumps that price up, quite a bit and stuff. So there's kind of where we're at with those kind of things. It's just not something that our current location is viable. Maybe new location.
Right, I think something,
Yeah.
exactly, new location.
Yeah.
Sure.
New technologies that keep them coming out on, battery life and things like that.
One of the things that I would look at too was, it's probably a better vehicle to do, say like a public vehicle or a, an staff to use, especially with all the growth going on and the ability to have a truck. And so I think that's something to look at to where, okay, this is something that's, infrastructure.
And electric bicycles, right?
Yeah. So it's just very little info on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got.
Thank you. That's exciting. City manager.
Well, start with the positives. May 7th at 6. I think the school opens at 6, but we May 7th, we're doing a public open house over at Deer Creek Elementary for the kickoff of the West Side Trail Planning event. And so this is an opportunity to program your parks. We're looking at what kind of amenities we can put in the park, whether it's going to be a soccer field, whether it's going to be pickleball courts, whether it's going to be a community garden, whether it's going to be a BMX course or a skate park or a nature park or, these are all the things that we've tossed around and we've asked our consultants to see what can we fit in this area. We have almost a mile from Beach Bend all the way down to the Swallow River that we are trying to program parks for that area. So we're looking at what we can do in there. There's only like 1 or 2 spots where you might be able to fit a small soccer field. Can't do a lot of structures because it's under the power line. So we're limited on that, but we can still do some pretty fun stuff that doesn't necessarily have any metal structures or anything that's going to cause any risks. Lightning strikes, if you will. But this is a great opportunity for us to think about opportunities for kayak lockers. What we want to see at the boat launch at the Swallow River. Bike lockers, kayak lockers. Do we want electrical charging stations? Do we want how big of a community garden? Do we want a dog park? Do we want tennis courts? Do we want we looked at the possibility of doing like a nature playground where you see similar to like the Dirksen Nature Park or something to that effect. And we've talked about doing, like a linear enhancement to the drainage system that's down there. Although our consultants don't necessarily want to get into that, but we might be able to partner with Clean Water Services and reach out for some grant projects along that. There's a drainage system that runs down the west side of the West Side Trail segment that we can look at potentially enhancing, and then there's pretty big wetlands down near Capulet that we can potentially do some enhancements around that area as well. So it's a great opportunity to get some public feedback about how we can program these parks, and exciting times, you know. I'm really excited about it. I think it's a beautiful feature that King City has to look forward to. And, you know, at this point in time, we can let dreams be dreams and dream about what we can do here. And I think it could be a really fun project and something I feel King City really needs right now. So let's get out there and think about parks, because parks are fun. And so that's our hope, is to get everyone out there and thinking about what kind of park features we'd like to see. And that's number one. Then I already talked about Harbor earlier, so I'm going to leave that one. Coming at us really quick in Fort Mira, is just kind of, this is our busy season. Because the audit all got pushed back, now we have audit going on at the same time that we have the budget going on, at the same time that we have all this development coming on and new funds being created and everything else. So Fort Mira is struggling under the pressure of getting the budget out and budget hearings, everything else going on. This is really her busiest season between really March through June, budget season. So she's going to be working on budget, but as we get into those sessions, budget committees and things of that nature, if the council can think about additional staff members and where we house them, we're already doubled up in every office here, pretty much, and so we're out of space, and we need more staff.
I was thinking about that. Could we do a portable in the parking lot and have the police cars park possibly across the street?
What about that? We were considering hiring Mr. Carter and putting a temporary portable out here. My problem is I don't know how temporary that's going to be.
Right.
I want to say that I'm glad I'm not portable. I'll find my lonesome outside of City Hall.
That's my only concern, is I don't know how long it's going to take us to establish the urban renewal district that we need to fund, that we need to get funds from to fund the additional City Hall structure over there. There are SCCs built into the park fund to fund a portion of the rec center at that location. But for the city admin pieces, those are planned to be funded through an urban renewal bond. So we create an urban renewal district, and we pull the bonds from that to pay for the city. Create a financing and a mechanism where we don't have to put that burden on residents. So we have a lot of work ahead of us on that front to do, and we really need to get moving on it, because our new development company is moving at an alarming rate. So being able to keep up with that pressure with the 4 or 5 staff members that we have is going to be a struggle. And you know, we're going to need to work on managing these funds, work on parks projects. Dave needs help in the Public Works Department, even if we can bring on a temporary kid for the summer to help him on maintaining the parks and maintaining the strips of right-of-way that the city owns along 101st and Fisher and throughout the city. Painting is done. All these things are coming our way for the summer, and I would like to gear up, if at all possible, and budget season this time to do that. Officer, we just annexed 215 acres. Granted, there's not a bunch of roads out there yet, but next year, there's going to be houses popping up out there. And so, be prepared for that. Maybe that takes us hiring a new recruit, sending through the academy. That takes us at least 4 months to get them through the academy, another 2 months before they're road ready. 3 months before. So, I mean, you're looking at a 6 to 7 month process just to get a new recruit up to speed. And we need a sergeant here in the near future as well. So, big changes coming, but I'm hesitant to pull the trigger until everything is solidly moving, right?
Sure.
I don't want to get us in a position where we've financially extended ourselves, and then find ourselves in a situation where then we have to retract and fire good people because something didn't occur according to plan, right? So there's some risk involved, but there's also the reward of it all at the same time. But that's a question for another day.
Yeah.
Anyway, union negotiations are coming up. We're going to need to get ready for that. So, you know, along with all these other meetings, we're probably going to need to do an executive session once we receive what their union terms and requests are. So we'll need to go down that. The audit is going on right now, like I mentioned earlier. Council interviews over the next few weeks. The PCD application for the community design and new home company, that right there. You know, Max's 10,000-page homework assignment has been being worked on over the past 2 months, has been deemed complete, and is now going before the Planning Commission next Wednesday for consideration and public hearing on that front. Their hope is to get out there and start grading this summer and get going. So that was in the development agreement that we just authorized, the council just authorized me and Gordon Ramos to execute with the applicant. So that's moving forward. We also, I mentioned earlier, the CFEC rules, the climate friendly and equitable communities. This is more home rule creep, what we call it. We call it home rule creep, and it basically dictates to cities how we have to plan our community. Same as what happened in 2001 and 2003, basically getting rid of single-family dwelling in urbanized areas. So anyone can come into a single-family lot and propose a single-family home, a duplex, a triplex, or quadplex on the one lot, and put in an ADU, and we can't stop. And we also can't require parks. So doesn't make sense. We live in the suburbs. People use their vehicles to get where they go. But these are situations where we see home rule creep and dictating to us how we have to run our community. Habitat just came in for building permits. Habitat for Humanity. Sustainable housing down off of Highway 99. Great project. Really excited to see that. Tuma Homes at the corner of 131st and Fisher. Just got all the PGE lines underground.
Finally. Gosh.
Still 2 power poles sitting up there. I had a tour with PGE today, and we talked about the removal of those poles, so hopefully those poles will go away, and that will allow them to pour the concrete and then fix the street through that area, because it's pretty big. But hopefully that gets fixed. And last but not least is the local wetland inventory that is kicked off and starting. Max has been working on some outreach out there, trying to get folks going. We've mailed letters to everyone out there. We've gotten some responses, some good responses, some negative responses. It's kind of a mixed bag, like always. Anytime you're asking to allow scientists and regulators to come on your property, people get a little upset with that. But it's for a good cause, So I really hope people are open to the concept of allowing our scientists to come out there and map the wetlands, because it is for a good cause, and it only helps our river system. That's the hope, and that's what we'll do.
Great, thank you. Do you have any questions for Mike?
No,
No.
at a full plate.
Yeah. Sure do. Yeah.
Busy few years.
Thank you for your update. Are we on counselors now? Oh, yep.
Yeah.
Who wants to go first?
Okay. Okay. I was lucky enough to get to go to 2 meetings. The first one is the Metro MPAC meeting, which was on March 27th. And these meetings are by Zoom, so you just sit in front of your computer and watch experts tell you what is important. So the impact they were talking about, which is the same thing they talked about the last meeting that I attended, which was Metro's low-income housing that built approximately 4,500 new homes since 2018, but the gap between what is being built and the need is just getting bigger and bigger, and so Metro will be putting a bond request, I'm guessing, for November. The rates for solid waste and tip fees will be going up. They are making the transfer stations into sort of a reuse recycle, where there's going to be an area that you can pick through things and take them away without them having to recycle or put them in the dump.
Really?
And they are working at, which again is old news from last time, and they're going to make more transfer stations so that people do not have to drive so far to go to a transfer station. Like, I think for us, we've gone over to Oregon City.
Okay.
Which is a bit of a drive.
Mm-hmm.
So, there is, they have up to $10 million set aside for nature parks, so municipalities should be looking at accessing those funds, and there are openings on their oversight committee, and I'm not sure what is involved with that, but and then the governor's housing bill has $110 million for shovel-ready projects. Okay, so I'm going to move on to
You're going to have to mute yours.
You have to mute yours.
I'll be embarrassed. Money well spent. Nope. Yeah, I really like listening to my own voice.
Oh, he's on the phone.
Uh-oh.
This is
Are
bad.
you sure it's not your computer that needs to be muted, Ronnie?
Everything goes here.
But yours was muted during our whole meeting. It wasn't? No.
Great when it works, not so great when it doesn't. And we've had nothing but trouble with this system. It wasn't designed, so it was put in prior to Zoom, and then we tried to integrate our system that we paid like $15,000 for. So that was, and then we tried to integrate it with Zoom technology. That'll have to be in motion. And so now we've tried to.
Can you hear us now?
New way of integrating it. I think Charles has another.
Okay, Richie, someone.
5,000.
Testing. Okay. All right. Let's finish this meeting. All right, Jan.
Okay, I'll talk fast. So today was the MTAC meeting, and Climate Action Plan funds have applications that are in, and they're reviewing the applications to award the money by the end of this year. And then they had a long presentation on how Metro determines housing and commercial and industrial land needs, starting with the historical baselines and looking at the age and lifestyle of the demographic of the population, which is driving the future. And within our urban growth boundary, right now, 52% of the land is used as single-family residence, and 35% is multifamily, and middle housing, which is what we are trying to emphasize, is only 7%. 7%. And development on vacant land is at 41%, and infill and redevelopment is 54%. And the other push that Metro is doing is prioritizing what they call small site industrial readiness, so that there can be commercial and light industrial scattered throughout the entire urban growth boundary area, and for smaller municipalities like we are with not that much land, that we would want to set aside for what they call small site industrial, which is a complex of less than 100,000 square feet, and the footprint is no more than half an acre. It's probably good that they are making an emphasis in this area, and something that we probably should maybe look at in our future development. And so there will be a rollout of planning and development grants, that what they call the 2040 planning and development grants for small site development, but that hasn't happened yet. So, done.
Thank you.
And I'll pass this on.
Just to be quick, so I got an email from community members from the group that Unite King City, which I guess you met with some of them. Wanted to meet. I have no problem meeting with them, but I had one question. And my question to them was, you know, they handed out a letter this past weekend to the entire city, and what their intent behind doing that, when their whole theme is to unite King City, and now they're driving a bigger wedge through. Sorry, this is not.
I'm sorry, you can't interrupt.
King City is not who distributed that letter. I just want to correct that.
Okay, thank you.
Person on my ring doorbell camera was, so. The other thing is I'll be at the LOC conference next week, the spring conference.
Nice. And you're going to that too as well, right? Both of you, the spring conference next week?
Yes.
Great. Thank you for doing that.
Sorry, I guess if they want to respond to my email, that's fine, and I would meet with them, but obviously I don't think they want to respond, so I don't know.
You haven't heard back a response? Okay. I met with a group yesterday. Actually, most of you are here. I don't actually know who distributed the letter. I don't know who is part of King City, except for Susan, is, I think, the webmaster of the website. And again, I appreciate that you are taking on trying to help unify the city. And anyway, so I met with some community members yesterday. I'm not sure who's associated with the city or who was behind the recall or whatever, but I met with these people because they're my community members and they requested to meet with me, and I'm always happy to do that when I can. So we talked about many things, one including the letter, one including the ongoing concerns about the transportation system plan, and I let them know that I have been meeting with Metropolitan Lift, the new home company, the developers, and they've been offering their assistance in trying to come up with a solution that works well. Okay, so I actually have a meeting next week with the new home company and one of their land use attorneys that they have on their staff to talk about is there anything we can do to somehow come up with some kind of solution that will work for the city, that will work within the plan. I don't know anything about those things, so I want to go to the experts, and they offered their help. So I'm going to meet with them next week, I think on Thursday, and see what they have to say. And then I'm sure I'll have another meeting with whoever wants to meet with me from to discuss what I learned, and I will obviously share that at the next meeting. Like I said yesterday, I'm here to listen to my neighbors, and I care, as do my fellow councilors, as do our city staff. And we know it's a really difficult time for all of us, and we're hoping that we can make it through this together in one piece and with peace. So I appreciate all of you coming tonight and being involved and being engaged and being civil, and that's really important, because it's a difficult time, like I said, and just being civil towards one another and calm is appreciated. So for respecting our staff tonight, thank you for respecting us. We all appreciate that, as I'm sure the staff does as well. So does anybody else have anything else? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned at 9:24 p.m.